If you're a savvy first-time homebuyer or someone interested in flipping homes and willing to roll up your sleeves and put in a little bit of elbow grease, this video is especially for you. We're gonna walk through a step-by-step guide to buying and flipping your first house for a profit. And before you tell me that this isn't possible, I've done this twice now with both of my own homes and during the height of the real estate market the last few years. So it's definitely doable. Now, first things first, let's talk about finding the right property. Remember that part I said at the beginning about elbow grease? Well, this is where that is coming in. As a beginner and first-time buyer, it's crucial to start relatively small and look for houses that have a ton of potential but are in need of some TLC. As you're searching online, try to find the homes that have sat for a while on the market. The longer they sit, the more likely that you'll be able to get a deal and that they're willing to work with you. And that'll keep the price that you're gonna have to pay on the home lower. I would say to make sure that they've been on the market at least 30 to 60 days or so. Sometimes you'll find a gem that just hit the market, but think about it. If you were a seller and you got an offer on your house on day one that was low, wouldn't you wait it out a little bit rather than jumping on that offer? Another thing to look for is potential when you're clicking through those pictures or you're on a home tour. Try to imagine what the house is gonna look like with a few updates. Maybe the paint is really awful, or it has that dirty or colorful 80s carpet. Those ones honestly are my favorite. Both are really easy updates and something that sometimes there's even hardwood floors under that ugly 80s carpet. Now, you wanna make sure that the home is ugly enough visually that you can make some significant changes without having to think about changing the structure of the home. That's where the cost is going to increase. So we're not talking about knocking down walls here or updating electrical or plumbing or anything. We want updates you feel like you could do yourself or hire out for relatively cheap. And once you think you've found a good option, take a bit of time to scout the neighborhood, drive around, check out the amenities, make sure that it's an area that is desirable. Remember, if you're buying this for yourself to sell down the road once you fix it up, you want this to be a place where you want to live too in the meantime. Now, let's talk about financing and crunching numbers. If you're a first-time buyer, you might be eligible for special loans or programs designed to help you get into a house with lower costs. The best person to talk to about your options is a lender, and each lender is going to be a little bit different. If you need a recommendation, I can certainly connect you to a lender that I work with often who happens to also be a real estate investor, so he has a great perspective on this process too. The lender will be able to get your mortgage approval so that you're ready to move forward with an offer on a home of your choosing. Now, before you put your offer in, take a bit of time to crunch the numbers. You're gonna want to account for the purchase price, the renovation costs, and then be sure to see what you think the home will sell for after you've done these updates. Remember, the goal is to make a profit, so be realistic about what your budget is and what the expected returns are going to be too. Once you have an idea of numbers, you're gonna make an offer on the property. This is when working with an agent comes in handy because getting your offer accepted at the right price and getting you the most help with costs is what this stage of the process is all about. Every dollar that you can save upfront on the purchase price is an extra dollar in your pocket at the end of this project. Now, be sure to have a thorough inspection done because that's where you're likely going to be able to knock off some money depending on what is found during that process. And it could save you a headache too. All right, you've negotiated the contract, signed on the dotted line, and the keys are in your hand. It's time to roll up your sleeves and get to work. You want to make sure you have a detailed plan of what needs to be fixed, updated, and replaced. Make a checklist and prioritize everything based on the importance and the budget. That way, if something unexpected comes up and you might not have the budget for everything, you've done the most important updates first. Now, let's talk about hiring contractors. It might be tempting to DIY everything, and I will say I've done it both ways, and there are pros and cons to hiring help versus doing everything yourself. But there are definitely some tasks that are best left to the professionals. If you do decide to hire someone, you want to do your research, get recommendations from people that you trust. I have a free vendor guide that I would be happy to share with you so you can start with and choose contractors who are going to deliver quality work within your budget and your time frame. Trust me, if you're living there, you won't want to be in a construction zone forever. Some of my go-to projects that I think will really update a space for relatively cheap are paint, new light fixtures, changing or removing flooring, new faucets, handles, accessories in the bathroom and kitchen, and adding in a backsplash to the kitchen if there isn't one already. I've also sanded and refinished hardwood floors before, and that wasn't too hard of a job to do, but it does take a bigger investment of time, and you have to be comfortable renting and working with some equipment. Once you have the renovations done, you'll have to decide if you want to live in the property for longer or if you're ready to list it for sale on the market. Now, keep in mind that there is something called capital gains tax, where if you don't own the property for 2 years or more, you'll be paying a higher tax rate on the profits when you go to sell. Now, there are ways to write off your expenses and reduce the amount you'll have to pay, but it's just something to consider if you do want to sell rather quickly. Now, when you're ready to get it on the market, you'll want to ensure that it's market ready to get the highest profits possible. You want minimal clutter, a few striking pieces of furniture to stage it with, and good lighting, natural lighting. And don't skip out on professional photography. It makes all the difference. If you're listing with a real estate agent, which I hope you would be to maximize your profits, they'll walk you through all of this and often cover most, if not all, of these expenses or direct you on how to maximize the exposure on your listing. Now, just to give you an idea of what you might be able to do with your first house if you fix it up and flip it, here are the results of what my husband and I were able to do with our first house. The house was originally listed for sale for $239,000. We bought the house after some negotiations for $223,500, and we got $6,750 in concessions back. Here's a list of the updates that we did to the home. We painted it, refinished the hardwood floors, we added a small stone back patio and front steps, we added some flowers and landscaping, we did remove a couple of trees, changed the flooring in the sunroom area. In the kitchen, we painted the cabinets, changed the hardware, and added a backsplash. And in the bathroom, we changed the vanity, the light, and the mirror. While I don't have a breakdown of exactly what we spent to update the home, I wish I would have thought to do that and keep that handy. We did most of these projects DIY, so I would estimate that we very conservatively spent about $10,000 to $15,000 max in renovations. And then we sold that house for $313,000 just over a year later. It was well worth it, and we used the profits to do it all again with our current house. So there is your step-by-step beginner's guide to flipping your first house for a big profit. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for content about Michigan and more real estate tips just like this.